Good morning and welcome to today's PSA programming here on KNCI, KZZO, KYMX, and KHTK. Operated by Bonneville International, I'm Cody Robinson. My first guest is Amy Roberts, Division Manager of Stationary Sources at the Sac Metro Air Quality Management District. She's here to discuss the Wildfire Smoke Air Pollution Emergency Plan and how to best prepare for a wildfire. Thanks for being with us. Could you introduce yourself and provide a little background on what you do?
My name is Amy Roberts. I'm a division manager here at the Sac Metro Air District, and I'm one of the division managers that's responsible for one of our key areas in the Air District. In particular, I'm the manager over our enforcement and our permitting section, which does a lot of the oversight of our businesses and those that need a permit, an air quality permit.
Great. Now, could you tell us a little bit about the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District?
So the Sac Metro Air Quality Management District, we're the local air quality district for Sacramento County. We're actually one of 35 in the state of California, so there's 35 other air districts around the state. And the main responsibilities of the local air quality district is to make sure that we're meeting those federal and state air quality standards that are set and established. These are standards that basically say this is a level at which is, healthy for people, and it should be below that. So all regions in the U.S. are trying to attain those standards to make sure that people are not impacted by air pollution.
Now, as a Sacramento resident, I remember the heavy smoke from the campfire a few years ago. What were some of the challenges the district and our community faced because of the smoke?
Anybody who lived here in Sacramento County would remember those smoky days during the campfire. It was such an anomaly. You can go back and remember that, there was almost 2 weeks of just endless days of smoke where, you could look out your window and barely see, out in front of you. And it was just such an unusual time. I think it really caught everybody off guard. And not only, the length of time, but also the season. It was November. It was cold. It was right before Thanksgiving. And so I think this was just a new phenomenon of that day-to-day smoke pollution. And it was so heavy, too. It was, in the unhealthy and hazardous levels for days on end. And that was just unusual where, maybe we'll have an air pollution event of some sort, but it would be a day, maybe two. In 2017, I think, the Napa fires, those were one of our first experience from a fire that's occurring way away from us, but we're being impacted by it. But that campfire was something that definitely stood out. I think locally, a lot of us just wondered what to do, ourselves and our homes, if you're an employer, and definitely our schools. We're wondering, what do we do with our kids? Are we going to send them home? Is it better for them to be at home or at school? If you were a person that wanted to go out and exercise, should I? If I'm out, should I wear a mask? If I'm an employer, should I send my employers home? Do I bring them, if they work outdoors, do they go home? Do they come inside? Do I give them a mask? What should I do here? So I think there was just a general sense of, what am I supposed to do when it's day after day of poor air quality, and where do I go to find information on what to do? Mm-hmm. So I think, all in all, that campfire experience really did just bring up a whole bunch of questions.
Sure. Now, I understand that because of the challenges we faced during the campfire, new legislation was put into place, Assembly Bill 661, that basically created the Wildfire Smoke Air Pollution Emergency Plan. Could you give us some background on that legislation and why it's needed?
As we were just talking about the campfire and that experience and, all of the confusion and questions and who does what, those were some of the things that fire and the smoke from that fire really did test our local readiness, mm-hmm. To act and how prepared we were to respond for that multi-day air pollution emergency. And it really, was a test that we said, we have room to improve. We should be better coordinated. We should be better prepared, have better tools to assist our residents, our schools, and our employers to provide those answers and to be able to respond quickly for any kind of future event that, a long time, right? Science and everybody has been saying we're going to suffer more and more of these. And so now that we are seeing them in actuality, it's our time to step forward and have something better in place to help all of us respond better, to answer those questions that we were facing during the campfire. So really it's to enhance our education and our guidance to all sectors about, when to mask, how to mask, when to close schools, and how to prepare for those events.
So, how did the district develop the emergency plan? Did you work in coordination with other agencies?
Yeah, absolutely, we did. The legislation actually required in it explicit coordination and collaboration with local agencies. Our public health officer, Dr. Casserier, and her team at the Public Health Department were our coordinating partner in the emergency plan development. We also coordinated with Sacramento OES and other emergency services departments and all of the cities in Sacramento County. So we spoke with city managers and, schools, were all part of our working group that we established. So we definitely did coordinate locally. And we had a lot of other stakeholders, too, that we found along the way that were instrumental, our businesses in the area, asking them what they did, and our nonprofits, how do they help during those types of events, and what are the challenges that they're all facing. All of these groups were really instrumental in making the emergency plan. One piece of the emergency plan, and one thing that we did along the way, is develop an online survey that was sent out to businesses and nonprofits and our local public agencies, just to ask those questions about, hey, what did you do in the past, and what would you do in the future, and how were you impacted during that time?
It looks like the plan is divided into 4 sections. Can you share with us what is included in each section and why?
Absolutely. That's a good question, Cody. The plan, it's about a 50-page document. So we definitely wanted to have some breakpoints for people to go to specific sections and also be responsive to what the legislation was really asking for. So there's one section there, the first one, and it's probably the biggest one. It's the health protective recommendations and guidelines. That's where we really tried to break it down of, gathering the information of what are the best things that you can do before the next event. So that's all of the preparedness things that, you can really educate yourself about the health impacts from air quality, or poor air quality. When smoke comes down, why do I care? Basically, why does this matter? Why should I be paying attention to this? But also, how do you prepare your home? How do you make sure you have supplies on hand? For example, air filters. That's a really key one if you're trying to stay indoors and trying to keep your indoor air more clean than outside. Getting up-to-date air filters, making sure that they're changed regularly. If you can, buy a portable air cleaner that you can put in a room and, make an indoor space that's clean. Then we also had what to do during the event. And so there's a whole list of recommendations of, what you should do, where you can find the air quality information. And then also, because masking was such a big question, and we've gone through, the pandemic, and there's a lot of questions around masking, and it's different from a COVID perspective to an air quality pollution event like a smoke event. So we wanted to make sure to, include some information on masking in the plan. So that was the first section. We also had those three other sections. Again, who's the responsible agency during these types of events, and what do each of those agencies do? So you go there, you'll know, okay, as an air quality agency, we provide the information. We give that information to all of our emergency services and public health department, so that then they can take that information and give their respective guidance to others, putting out messaging to the public, making, if there's a long event, is that do we need to have an indoor location for people to come to? So that was our second section. Then there's another one that's recommendations for employers, for public agencies. So anybody who's really making decisions for others, it's a good place to go so that, you can get the best guidance that will protect the employers or the employees in your group. So there's that section. And then the final section are strategies for vulnerable populations. It was a needed section just because vulnerable populations will definitely have higher risks to themselves. So there's a whole list of challenges and things that need to be thought about if you're a city or an organization that deals with vulnerable populations.
Now, can you tell me more about the section on vulnerable populations? Who is affected, and what are some of the unique challenges in addressing their needs during the smoke event?
Just mentioned, yeah, that's our fourth section in the plan is, the strategies for vulnerable populations. Vulnerable populations are, as I mentioned, those that are at greater risk of health impacts during a smoke event. Think of anybody who might have a health condition that would worsen their breathing or their heart health. Anybody with asthma, in particular children, our elderly populations, they're all at greater risk to having a poor outcome from, breathing poor air qualities, smoke, and especially when it's a sustained event like something like the campfire and other events we've had since then. Also think about vulnerable populations when you're thinking outdoor employees. So our working population, that's your job to be mostly outside. And then you overlay that with a hazardous or unhealthy air quality situation, increases their exposure and increases their likeliness of having some kind of poor, health outcome from that. And then one of the big ones that we talk about in the plan, and cities and our county think about, are our unhoused populations. And that's of particular concern for anybody, again, that is outside, doesn't have access to a filtered airspace, cleaner airspace. They're going to be at particular risk for those types of health risks. And so that is something that we want to pay particular attention to. And like I mentioned, all of the cities in the county, they try to come up with strategies and, how to reduce the impact to all those different populations. But it can definitely be challenging. You asked what are some of the unique challenges in addressing their needs. For example, communication. That can sometimes be difficult. If you're talking maybe somebody who doesn't regularly look at online resources, so that will be maybe a more difficult thing to get information on what the air quality is doing. Also, resources. Smoke is very intermittent, so forecasting can, it gives you a look forward. But if you're a planning agency or a city or a county thinking, do I open up that clean air space right now? Maybe in a few hours the smoke is going to lift. There's, some difficult decision points that all cities and counties have to think about because there's financial and staffing resources that would have to be devoted to a clean air space, for example. And sometimes those resources are pretty tight. So, resources, transportation challenges, that's also another difficult one. But also, sometimes, if you're in your home, maybe your home isn't the cleanest space to stay in, and it's recommended you go somewhere else. But a lot of people just are hesitant to leave their own home and their own space. Our unhoused populations, likewise, you have a space, even if, it's outdoors, but you may not want to leave that area, or you may have a pet that you want to keep with you, and you're not sure that clean air space will even allow a pet. So you're more reluctant to, seek those cleaner air options.
What type of outreach is the district doing to reach local schools who need to make decisions to protect students during smoke events?
It was one of the trickiest spots during the campfire and our subsequent smoke events is, our schools. We're concerned about our children and the level of exposure to smoke. And so that was definitely one of the big needs that we wanted to try and meet, to give some better resources. We do have now videos for school districts, and we have them in multiple languages. And those are really for school administrators and parents to look and see, okay, just a guide to what to do before and during a smoke event. So we have those online videos. There's other online resources as well. So we do have what we call air quality action charts, and those are guides for schools to really quickly look at, what do I do during recess? Do I keep the kids indoors? At what air quality level do I cancel school? Or when do I cancel an event or reduce an event? Maybe if it was 2 hours, we're only going to get 30 minutes in outdoors, but we're going to keep it short. So those are all things that were considered, and hopefully these resources do make it easier for schools and school administrators and teachers to know what to do during a smoke event. One other thing I'll mention also is, the kinds of outreach for schools. A lot of it is just that one-on-one communication. We, for example, the head of our agency and the executive director for the Sacramento County Office of Education there, they have a direct line of communication. They've got each other's phone numbers, and they're ready to make contact if needed and start the communication. So there's definitely things in place now, an email list, so that we can quickly just send out the needed information to schools or get on a phone call really quickly so that we can talk about, recommendations.
It looks like one of the key things for everyone to do during a smoke event is to track air quality. Can you tell us how residents can do that?
Absolutely. You are right. It's, tracking air quality is something that is pretty much top of the list. As you're, getting into a smoke event, you just really need to know how bad is it. And so there's one resource that we tout all the time, and it's the Fire and Smoke Map. This was a resource that was created a couple of years ago. In 2020, the Environmental Protection Agency, for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, they launched this Fire and Smoke Map, and it was really a helpful tool because what it does is basically it combines what we call regulatory monitors. Those monitors are things that we're tracking all the time as part of an air quality district to know what the air quality is doing in the region. We have 7 of those monitors around the county, and that gives a good idea regionally how the county is doing. Smoke is all hit and miss based on weather and wind patterns, and so this map takes not only the regulatory monitors, but it adds in portable monitors. The good thing about it is that it does a correction factor. So basically, those regulatory monitors they're high grade, they're really expensive, they're very precise and accurate for reading air pollution. The portable sensors are less expensive, but they're still giving a good reading. It may just come with a little plus or minus around it versus those really high grade monitors. So what this map does is it now includes more air quality monitors, but it has, as I said, applied this correction factor to those portable sensors so that we can rely on those sensors to be close to those regulatory monitors. And so it will give you, if you look at that map, it's going to give you a much finer grain look at what the air quality is closer to you. So if you're in Folsom, you can look there and look for the dot on that map that's closest to where you live, and that will give you a really good idea of what the air quality is closest to you, because Folsom may have a poor air quality versus somebody in Elk Grove or Galt just because of the wind patterns for that time, and that can switch based on the wind switches, and then all of a sudden Elk Grove has the worst air quality. So it really does change based on the region. So the Fire and Smoke Map is a really good tool for people to use and go to find out what that local look at air quality is. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the top air quality tools that we do recommend. There's also others. There's, you could even purchase your own portable sensor and, put that up in your backyard if you wanted something right at your home location or your business location. There's also other air quality apps. We do have what we call the Spare the Air app. That one is available to download as well, and that will give, it'll look at the regulatory monitors, so it won't give that, broader picture. But those are all really good resources.
Great. When reviewing the plan, the air quality action charts jumped out to me as a very valuable resource. Can you tell our listeners more about these charts and how they can use them?
Absolutely. I'd love to go over those just because they were one of the key guides that we included into the plan. There's four different action charts. They are geared toward different sectors. So there's one for residents, specifically talking about, exercise and activity levels. And there's also one for businesses. So if you're an employer, you can go there and get recommendations on not only, guidance, but some of the requirements. So there is a state law that requires masks to be given to employees at certain different air quality levels. So there's one for businesses. There's also one for schools, as I think I mentioned earlier. And then we also have, one for public agencies. And again, those are all, there's a little bit of specificity for each one of those sectors. So these air quality action charts try to look at each of those and give guidance and recommendations at different air quality levels for different activities that you might be doing. So it's just really meant to be a easy one-page reference guide. So within a matter of minutes, once you look at what the air quality is doing, you've checked that fire and smoke map out, and you say, okay, it's 150 AQI. What do I do? And go to that chart, look at the column where it says 150, and you'll be able to get some guidance quickly.
Can you tell us about some of the other useful tools that are available that will help our community during any future wildfire events?
I'll tout it again, the wildfire smoke map that the EPA has put out. You can also go to airquality.org. That's our local agency's website, so airquality.org. And there's a link on that homepage for wildfire smoke information. That's one that I recommend going to, just because there you'll find several other buttons that are embedded that will give you an outreach toolkit. That's something that we would really love businesses and public agencies and anybody who can get the word out about what to do during a smoke event. And if you want to, give people information prior to, start to, give people that education and training about where to go and what to do. There's social media ready to go links, so you can just copy and paste over something into your Twitter feed or your Facebook account for people to read. They're already basically have pictures and quick messages that we want to get out there. Newsletters, template newsletters, those are really great access or useful tool for people to use. We're just trying to amplify that message of how to reduce exposure and thereby keep people healthier in our community. So that outreach toolkit is there on airquality.org under the wildfire smoke information page. Other resources that you'll find there are, again, ways to promote the reduction of particulate pollution during smoky days. So we've got flyers that you can download. One of the complaints that we get here at the Air District are, it's really smoky out there. Why is my neighbor leaf blowing right now? Do we have to add more air pollution into it, on a day like this? So, there's a flyer that's been created so that it's talking about, reduce landscaping activities, drive less or drive slower on dirt roads. This is maybe not the day to barbecue or have, a recreational fire in your chimenea. So, there's things that we have on that wildfire smoke information page to, again, try to promote and educate and get information out there.
Got it. Now, finally, how can residents learn more about wildfire preparedness and air quality topics?
Well, Cody talked about it a little bit. The, airquality.org is a place to go, and linking into that wildfire smoke information page. There you'll find the emergency plan. You'll find a link to the fire and smoke map. You'll find links to all of those air quality action charts, videos for schools. So everything I've mentioned today, there's also links there for data and health information. So if you are somebody who's more curious and wants to learn more, you can go there to click on a whole host of different places to go to find more data on air pollution, find more data on forecasting. If you're, wondering if there's a way for you to look out ahead, there's a lot of resources out there, at the local level, but at the state level and at the federal level. There's been a lot of time and research being poured into how do we deal with smoke. It's, obviously something that the whole state and the whole nation is now grappling with, the amount of smoke and wildfires that are occurring. It means that a lot of people are now putting a lot of time and effort into creating resources for people to better deal with it.
Great. That was a lot of useful information. So thank you for being here. That was Amy Roberts, Division Manager of Stationary Sources at the Sac Metro Air Quality Management District. If you would like more information on what we discussed today, visit airquality.org. That's airquality.org. If you have questions regarding this program, please direct your correspondence to Public Affairs in care of this station.